A young girl, Deborah Sampson, reads an old book by the dim light of a single candle, half her face in shadow, half illuminated, her eyes holding a strange sparkle and distant dreams. Outside the window, the muffled sounds of marching soldiers fade in the distance. Long shadows stretch across the cabin walls. Deborah stands alone in the forest, dressed in men's clothing, a thick wool coat, knee-length trousers, her hair cropped short, staring at her reflection in a small hand mirror as if recognizing a stranger behind her dense trees and the mist of a cold winter morning. A military recruitment office scene. Deborah, now Robert shirtless, stands before a wooden desk, an officer examining her papers. Behind her, other young recruits wait in line, dust particles float in the dim light, a large map of the colonies hangs on the wall. Robert shirtless in new military uniform, standing with fellow soldiers. Other recruits pat him on the shoulder. His face shows a slight smile, but his eyes reveal a mixture of fear and determination. Behind them, wooden barracks in the hazy winter morning light. A military training camp. Robert performs rifle drills with comrades, his posture strong and confident. A sergeant shouts commands, breath visible in the cold air, long shadows cast by the sharp morning sunlight. On the battlefield in New York, Robert and fellow soldiers crouch behind a stone wall, firing their muskets. Smoke billows around them, his face streaked with dirt and sweat, eyes burning with determination. Behind them, a burning farmhouse. A hand-to-hand combat scene. Robert grapples with a British soldier, swords flashing, blood dripping from a wound on his head. Chaos of battle all around, dark storm clouds gathering in the sky above. Robert lies wounded on the ground, sword still in his hand, blood flowing from his head wound, comrades trying to lift him, fallen and wounded soldiers scattered around, the scene illuminated by the hazy light of evening. Inside a makeshift military hospital tent, Robert sits alone in a corner, shirt removed, tightening bandages around his chest, old scar marks visible on his body, glancing nervously around to ensure no one sees him. Robert sits alone in a forest at night, a small fire burning. He is removing a bullet from his own leg, deep lines of pain etched on his face, teeth clenched, his shadow dancing on the trees behind him in the firelight. A hospital in Philadelphia. Robert lies unconscious. Dr. Binney sits beside him, the doctor's face showing shock and respect, having just discovered the secret. The room dimly lit by candles, long shadows on the walls. Dr. Binney sits in his study writing a letter, deep thought on his face, candle on the desk, ink and quill, moonlight streaming through a small window. The letter reads, "The bravest soldier." Deborah, in her true form, sits on the porch of a small farmhouse, dressed in women's clothing, but her eyes hold the same spark. Holding an old letter in her hands, green fields behind her, golden evening light. A military ceremony. Deborah in civilian clothes stands before officers, a general presenting her with an honorable discharge and commendation letter. Soldiers lined up behind her, sunlight falling on their faces, a scene of pride and respect. Deborah speaks at a public gathering, standing on a small stage, papers in hand, hundreds of people listening, some shocked, some inspired, dust particles floating in the bright light streaming through windows. Deborah with her husband and 3 children on their small farm, teaching her children to read, peace on her face, cornfields behind them, summer afternoon with shade from scattered trees. Elderly Deborah sits in a chair, an old military coat resting beside her. She touches it gently, tears of memories in her eyes, a portrait of her young self on the wall, soft light coming through the window. Deborah's deathbed scene. She lies in bed, family gathered around, a small American flag in her hands, first light of dawn entering through the window, peace on her face. Ceremony in Massachusetts, 1983. People stand before Deborah's statue. A young girl places flowers at its base. Deborah depicted in military uniform, American flag waving behind, clear blue sky above. A young woman in modern military uniform stands before Deborah's statue. She salutes, her eyes holding the same spark that Deborah had. A military academy building in the background, golden sunset light illuminating the scene.